Testing. Testing. How's my audio coming in? All right. It's going to be a little bit scuffed. Just a little bit, I think. Hi. Hello. Okay. Hi, hello. Welcome everybody to a stream about Distal. It's a high fantasy, class heavy, D20 based system that's currently in development. You can join it if you want to see what's up. Just join the Discord at playdisrpg.com or distalrpg.com, or there's another address somewhere. But today we release the entirety of the first alpha packet. So alpha is what we're looking to test in this alpha. It's like the thing's 120 pages, something like that. For those who don't know, a tabletop role-playing game is like Dungeons and Dragons, and this game is very much modeled after, or very similarly to Dungeons and Dragons. There's plenty of tabletop games out there, but D&D 5th edition in particular, I did start on 3.5, but 5th edition is something that I really enjoy, and kind of just wanted to make something of my own, throw some ideas and fix some problems too, for some things that exist in 5e that I'm not super thrilled about, but also it's an amazing game. 5e, that is. As far as whether or not this is amazing, I guess we'll figure it out. But the goal of this alpha is to lay the foundation for stuff that will be coming in the future. And I guess I'll just drop us in. D20 based. So, Iniskane. Is that how I pronounce it? Araxis Animus. It is a system that primarily uses the D20, so a 20-sided dice, to propel you forward, or rather to make checks to determine like outcomes. So if you roll to attack, you roll a D20, then you're going to add modifiers to it. Not all systems use a D20 that way. Some you need to like roll it lower or like get a result that is lower than your stat. But in the way that we, okay, my dog's freaking out. The way that we use it in the system is very much like D&D, where you roll it, crit on a 20, and then add modifiers to it. But that said, we're going to run through. This is the alpha packet. Again, it's extensive. I'm moving too fast for this thing, but there's all sorts of stuff here, and it's totally free. So just jump in, go download it, or download it from the website, and just play around. Tell me what you think. If you can run it at a table, even better. There's currently no module associated with this, because we're banking on the people who are like really invested early in that experience to already kind of know about how these sorts of games work and be able to craft an environment of their own and then play with friends. So with that being said, what we're going to do today is go through and create a character, start to finish. It is I don't want to say it's a difficult character creation process, but there's a bunch of stuff that you get to do. So we'll just walk through it. For the, you can pull the sheets out here, print them off if you like, but also the character sheets can be downloaded separately from the website or the Discord. Those are both available. Cool, just checking chat. Hey, Otaku, if I look different than how I used to, it's because I'm now like 6 years, when was the last time I streamed? Older and also dying inside. So I'm getting older and I feel my age kind of wearing on me, but let's see. So we're gonna start with a character creation and enroll right into it. First thing, so character creation starts right at the start. It's actually a little bit disjointed now that I'm reading it. These are all the steps for character creation. First, choose a lineage, choose a class, assign attributes, choose a bloodline, write a background, blah, 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 blah. We'll go through it. But these pages should probably be moved to a different part because it seems like disjointed. But there's a whole table of contents here for you to look at too. And then also, if you open it up in PDF form, which I guess you would, there's also a table of contents, or rather bookmarks, in the PDF. So you can just go right to a section super quick, which is helpful if you're trying to look for specific rules for things. So I would prefer to do this sort of stuff online. And then the character sheet you can actually fill in just by hand on the computer. But if you want to go old school, print it out. Alrighty, so first thing, choose a lineage. We're going to pick one. Actually, I'll let you all pick one. I know not too many of you have gotten a chance to look at this yet, but I'll describe them real quick. So the Atlian, they're kind of your Triton sort of merfolk, but not really. I think more like Triton characters, and they're originally of the sea. The Atlian people were pushed ashore after a lost war with the denizens of deeper waters. They get +1 to wisdom. They get very normal movements and health attributes. And then they get some access to specific weapons, like most of the lineage do. And they have some stuff that like helps them move around underwater. And actually they can glide through the air too. But then you have dwarves. Dwarves are dwarves. It's kept very true to the Tolkien / Gygaxian mentality for what that lineage is. And then elves are kind of in a similar vein, where they're very, I would say, less Lothlorien, more wood elves, like sort of like Magic the Gathering realm, where they're more naturally inclined. They didn't always used to be. The ancient elves kind of they cordoned themselves off from the rest of the world, and those were a little bit more stuck up in Lothlorien. But anyway, the elves that exist today are a little bit more grounded. And then you have the Kinsguard. Kinsguard are they're humans, but they're from a specific, I guess, from a specific empire. So it says, humans of a fallen empire eager to make up for the failings of those who have gone before them. The Kinsguard were originally from the Gold Warren Empire. And the Gold Warren Empire was ultimately kind of conquered and destroyed. And then the King's Guard were exiled from the region, and they kind of just roamed the world and held very true to some traditions that they had. And they were renowned for being monster slayers. So if you're picking a human, then you have some things that kind of allude to that monster slaying heritage. So Kinsguard Defiance, for example, after receiving critical strike from an enemy, you roll your class willpower die, which we'll get into. You have a family heirloom, which is just like a weapon that's of a slightly higher quality, so something that's kind of like passed down over time. And then you have proficiency in some weapons that are a little bit specialized. Tanglefolk, that's your halfling sort of equivalent. They are super fast. They're just like, they used to be called a quickling, but they move at 35 movement, and so do elves, very quick. And they have the lowest health. So one of the things that is a little bit different in Distal is that your lineage determines your health die. Dwarves are very hardy. They get a plus to fortitude and then also a higher health die. And then you have Ulsadar, which are like half giants, and they have the highest hit die of anybody, but they're a little bit clunky. And then most of the lineages have a D8, and then you'll have some who have a D6. So Tanglefolk in particular, small. Actually, they're even small characters. They're fast, but one thing that kind of sets them apart is that they regenerate 1 health at the beginning of each of their turns, both in and out of combat. So when it comes to downtime recovery, Tanglefolk just fix themselves over time by virtue of just this sort of very quick metabolic regeneration. And the Tanglefolk were originally from a different plane. This plane was called the Tangled Wilds, and it's totally overgrown. The world itself, or the plane rather, it's a bunch of vegetation that's like competing with itself for light. So it's just constantly changing, and there's more lore on it. But anyway, we'll keep going. Ulsdaughter, you have 25 feet movement, so they're slower, just like dwarves, slow. And that's one of the costs that they pay for their added health. +1 to strength, -1 dexterity, and again, higher hit die. Some of these traits are lighter weight too, just to kind of offset the balance. So for example, you resist the effects of extreme weather in all climates. It makes sense for that particular race, but also doesn't come into play in every campaign. So these are kind of some of the things that you do to offset the health. And then you have Wild Walker, which they're humanoids, but they're kind of maybe blessed / cursed with a forest or with an animal lineage, and they can transform into woodland creatures and kind of romp around. Thank you, Wodrick. It's nice seeing you again. And it's gonna Oh, Nansen chooses Yvain. I'll pick Yvain then. Let's see. What is the world universe that's set in high fantasy? It's high fantasy. Well, I guess as you read through the packet, that should hopefully become a little bit more clear, but we'll talk about it a little bit more too as we get into it. Anyway, Wild Walker. If you're furry, pick this particular race. Yvain are actually people who were humanoids, but they're, well, it's assumed that maybe they're descended from like the earliest planeswalkers, people who were human at one point but stayed in other planes way too long, and it changed them within and without. So now Yvain, having come back to the distal plane, which is where everybody is currently, they have 3 eyes, all glowing. You can see like glowing veins running beneath their body on occasion, and they can see, they kind of have like another plane overlaid on top of their current vision. How I imagine them is sort of like Eris Morn from Destiny 2. So get a picture of that, look it up, and that's kind of what you're working with. It's pretty dope. They have elemental blood, so they can like kind of mitigate some of the elemental damage that they might be receiving, provided it's from their home plane. So we're going to choose a vein, and 30 movement, D8 to health, +1 to intelligence. Very easy. We'll switch on over. I'm going to say lineage is a vein. We'll pick the class next. Level is going to be 1. The health die is 1d8. Oops. And then their health bonus will be determined by their class. So their health, we'll get into that later. Movement, 30 feet of movement, and so there's a +1 to int. We'll also be able to put some points into certain things, but we'll start out with that. And then for this sort of stuff, I'm just going to copy it and put it in kind of the right area. So Yvain weapons we're proficient in. I'm kind of skipping ahead right now, but a lot of this is explained in the packet, and if anything feels like it's not explained, let me know, because it probably needs to change. So plain sight, we're just going to drop this in as an ability, and actually, if we go all the way down to this page, this is it's kind of a development tracker, so you can just kind of keep track of things that you've acquired in each level, just to remember it, so it doesn't necessarily clutter up your the main portion of your character sheet. And actually, what sort of Yvain am I going to be? Am I going to be from the plane of fire, or the plane of frost, or the plane of storms? I'll give you all a moment to figure that out. Just put a vote there in chat. Insight. And we'll grab one of those. Oh, just a moment. Okay, sorry. Yeah, home improvement, kind of, sort of. Not really, just fixing things. Anyway, I see 1 for plane of fire. Okay. Okay, let's do that. So we're gonna go into this. They're just gonna have be part of the plane of fire. So that's what they have plain sight into. But also they have elemental damage buffer because of elemental blood. So 1d4 buffer to the type of damage. Actually, we can zoom in. Damage associated with your home plane. So fire, cold, or lightning. So I get a 1d4 buffer to fire. Actually, I'll just say... or I'll do... just so I know. There's no durability here. So buffers are a mechanic where you can roll them to mitigate damage. So you take damage of an appropriate type, roll your d4, and then it reduces it by that amount. It's meant to be a little bit, this game in general, meant to be a little bit more active in what you're doing, like the choices that you make, without also extending the turns or rounds too much. So one thing that I was very cautious about is that I wanted to make sure that there weren't just way too many actions to pull off. If you look at 5e Dungeons & Dragons, for example, you know, a 5th level fighter gets a second attack, and then there's more attacks that take place at later levels. And just having to roll so much kind of extends the turn. Same thing with spells for certain characters, but everybody here has a more or less standardized action economy, which we'll get to in a bit. But at the same time, there's a little bit more. I wanted you to get hit more, and also hit other creatures more. So hopefully that turns out well. We'll have to play test and see. Internally, it's been pretty good. Things are pretty well balanced, but you can let me know. Alrighty. Zornio? Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. 5e inspired, I would say that it's going to feel very comfortable for players who have played 5e, because we take a lot of the kind of the streamlined concepts from that game, including like the action economy, and use it very similarly in this particular game. You're going to see a lot of differences here in just a bit, but that's why it's inspired. None of the lore, none of the whatever. Actually, the Plane of Fire lore needs to be replaced. It's like way too close in one aspect to Forgotten Realms lore. It needs to be changed. But aside from that, there's just a lot of similarities, and you'll feel it. If you have friends who play D&D 5th edition, and you sit down and play a game, have everybody build characters here, it's going to feel like D&D, which to me was what I was going for. There's a lot of mechanical differences, but they are hopefully, for the most part, intuitive. But again, we'll walk through it. So I'm at medium build. That gives me a weight capacity of 100, which I'm just going to jot down here. Oops, my weight is not 100. It is currently 0. And then 200. This is my when I become restrained. And this will be, if I exceed this limit, this weight capacity limit, I'll be encumbered. All right, so let's move on. Classes. It took us a while to get here. We're here. We did it. So there are a number of classes. A lot of these are, I think I got like 5 of them out or something. But classes are where you're going to see the most growth for your character. It determines how you solve problems, and of course determines how you fight. And it'll also help determine what sorts of things you want to focus on as you develop a character. There's a health bonus for every class. That means every time you level this class, you gain a static amount of health, and that's on top of your lineage health. There's a willpower die. This doesn't, outside of some very specific circumstances, change. Willpower can act as as temporary health, or it can act as a means to make it easier to hit something. So, for example, if I make an attack and it misses, if I have willpower stockpiled, then I can expend it and push that attack, and then it should be pretty easy to push it over and then land the hit. The downside is that if you use your willpower to attack specifically, it's going to fatigue you at the start of the next turn. So if you're fatigued, it means you don't have an action, and you're encumbered, so you move it at half speed, or rather, it costs twice as much to move. But at the end of that turn, it wears off, and then you're good. That being said, any classes here that pique anybody's interest. We have Berserker, which is the take damage, and then once you get them bloodied, which is half health, they get a little bit more functionality. Strategist, which is more, it's like close to a warrior, except they have some capabilities that help other your other party members. Elementalist, which is kind of a hybrid fighter. I would imagine an Elementalist actually like almost the like the Witcher, when you're making like, you know, Ard signs or Quen signs with your like while you're swinging a blade around. It's going to feel somewhat similar. Let's see, Falconer, they have an aerial companion that they can use to attack with them. Cutpurse, which is a rogue essentially. They're pretty movement heavy, and they can kind of debilitate people. And they make use of backstabbing weapons. Jester is very similar, feels roguey, except they are just bouncing all over the place and like spitting oil and then igniting the oil on fire and then just jumping out of harm's way and that sort of thing. They're very fun and bouncy. The Ferryman it's a casting class, except it makes use of the death of others to fuel its spellcasting. So the moment that something dies, I get a spell slot back. And more importantly, I can use a reaction to like take that person's spirit and then lash somebody else. They're pretty fun. Emperor Gut is essentially an arsonist. They are fueled by the power of the plane of fire, and they've entered a pact with some sort of being that exists there. Originally, the Ember Gut was called a salamander because that's who they would often enter the bargains with, and they still do. But they themselves are kind of like a little bit chastised in a way that a warlock would be chastised, because they've given something away to get power for themselves. But the Ember Gut, it's all about fire, and they do a lot with willpower, or they use it to fuel attacks and shields and that sort of thing. Probably more so than any other class. Magister are your casters. You can play them like wizards if you want. They are a little bit... they're like more intelligent, kind of proper casters. So, any suggestions for a class option? Just let me know. I'll give you just a little bit, and they're all here: Berserker, Strategist, Elementalist, Falconer, Cutpurse, Jester, Ferryman, Ember Gut, Magister. Got one for Jester. +1 for Jester. Okay. Let's do it. All right, so an Evane Jester. Jester time. Okay. Elemental Ferryman. Luke, I agree. They both are fun. We've done a lot of internal testing, and Elementalist was played a lot. Ferryman was played a lot, so they're definitely pretty legit. They've also gone through a lot of revision because of that playtesting, and that's what I'm hoping that all of you will be able to help me with as well. So say class, we're going to say Jester, and then the health bonus on a Jester, I believe, is +2, and then it's a 1d8 power or willpower die. So we'll say +2 health bonus, and then willpower die is 1d8, and then your willpower max. Actually, I'm not even going to get into it because we'll get there when we get there. Okay, so we're going to go down. This is how classes work. Actually, we'll go down to Jester, because it's a lot. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. because they are a class that isn't necessarily a caster, but they kind of play like a caster, with the tricks that they do. So this is a very class heavy, ability driven game, which means this is going to be like a lot to write down and a lot to remember. And that is one of the things that I feel like, I don't want to say it's a failing, but it's one of those things that you almost look at 5e's simplicity. Let me just break it down real quick. One of the things that annoys me about 5e is that the subclasses don't get enough flavor to really make them like, I don't know, like they get a few good special things that make the subclass what it is, but it's not the whole class. And in Distal, I wanted to like drive that forward. So every class is, they're specific enough to be like, oh, that's exactly what this class is. So for example, like a rogue, it could be a swashbuckler, it could be a whatever. But like if you're a cutpurse, you're like, there's a very clear image for what that is, and you don't have to play them that way. But and actually, there's a bunch of options to kind of branch off and be the kind of cutpurse that you want to be, or in this case, the jester that you want to be. But I don't know. Let me know what you all think. And again, class heavy. But we're going to go through and kind of just we're going to look at some of the stuff, but not all. So I'll start from the bottom. Springy at level 1. You do not provoke opportunity attacks while airborne. Airborne is anytime you're jumping. So if you know how the jump mechanics work in the game, you can jump out of the way of, or like jump through somebody's reach and not take an opportunity attack when you do that. Disengaging is also easier in this game too. So we'll have to see how much value this actually provides, but it kind of sets up for some other things that you can do. For example, at level 2, so say we're springy, just in general, whenever we're airborne, no opportunity attacks. If I did bunny hop, so as an example, a technique is a bonus action. But if I were to bunny hop, your next jump's maximum distance increases by 10 feet, your movement speed or your movement increases by 10 feet until the end of turn. So I can jump further, jump higher. So in combination, it lets me probably like pass through maybe a couple of creatures' reach or something like that. Let's see. What should we actually write down though? So I'm gonna, so the instructions actually tell you to not to write things down. I blew past it and didn't even read it, but because you're gonna be running into something like this, which is kind of gonna, it might stop you up a little bit. The instructions tell you to fill in the level stuff or level 1 stuff at the end, which, okay, maybe we'll just do it that way. That probably makes sense. All right. Anyway, that's the jester. In case you wanted to see, please feel free to read the rules. Anyway, we're going to move to the actual character creation. Assign attributes. So I know by looking at the jester's class that it suggests dexterity and intelligence. So I'm going to focus on those 2 attributes as the ones that I want to kind of develop. Evane in particular have they have a +1 to intelligence already. So knowing that, say, attributes of character creation, choose 2 attributes to become your primary attributes. And then the rest are secondary attributes. So on this character sheet, we have little buttons here. I'm going to make intelligence a primary attribute. And then I guess I'll make, actually not sure if I want to make dexterity my secondary attribute. I might make, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And this will make sense, but level 1, both primary attributes increase by 1. Okay, so bump, bump, primary attributes. 1 secondary attribute increases by 1. So I'm going to, I think I'm just going to, I think I'm going to up my strength by 1 and then keep these 0. And what this will do, so again, I'm jumping around just because I know things and stuff, but strength is going to up my carry capacity by another 20 pounds. So I'm just gonna put that in there. Okay. There's an explanation here. Sometimes it could be good to kind of game this a little bit because of how when you get primary and secondary attribute increases. Like at level 3, I'll be able to increase my primary attributes and my secondary attributes by 1. If I made a dexterity a secondary attribute and intelligence a primary attribute, I'd be able to increase both of those things by 1 on that level. The downside is that your secondary attributes don't get as many points as your primary attributes do. So even though you might get that like temporary bump, your primary attributes are just going to kind of move past your secondary ones. But that's super nuanced. So let's see. What do the instructions say? Okay, it doesn't actually tell you to move on, but this is the next page. After you set up your attributes, you can choose one bloodline ability. So we are, and then move on to writing a background. So we are a Yvain, which means that we live over here, and we get to pick one of these bloodline abilities to just have forever. So we can pick Melding Blood, which increases our elemental damage buffer to a 1d6 instead of a 1d4. Additionally, it lets you choose one other elemental damage type to buffer. So we are fire right now, but we can also be frost, or we're fire right now, but we can also be lightning. Or we can do Volatile Blood, which is whenever you roll your elemental damage buffer. So if I'm attacked, take fire damage, I roll that buffer to mitigate it, and then I can do damage to the attacker provided they're within 5 feet of me, because my blood is explosive. It's actually doing damage to people, so you can do that, but they have to be close to you. So this is for a character who would want to stay up close to somebody, which Jester, I don't know, we kind of want to be at a distance. Then Monosiphon, because the Vayne are like really good spellcasters. When you cast a spell that is tagged with the same element as your elemental buffer, you gain willpower equal to the spell's level. So if I'm using a level 1 fire spell, I gain 1 willpower when I use it. Just a nice little buff, because any willpower is good, especially when it comes to increasing the modifiers when you're trying to make an attack. Cool. All right, so we're going to pick Melding Blood, I think. So we're going to, let's do Fire and Frost. So this is going to be just changed to Fire, Frost, and then it's a 1d6. That's it. That's what we got. We'll go down and we'll just put Melding Blood, just to remember it. Cool. Now we're going to move on to the background stuff. So I did a whole video about this. Please feel free to watch the video. But the way that we write a background in Distal is that we use a number of prompts to kind of fuel your imagination. The prompts kind of ad-lib this sentence, or 2 sentences rather, and they also provide benefits based on what happens. So I'm going to roll off screen on Google Dice Roller. I wish I could do that in chat. I could. I don't want to drag my Google stuff into the shot, but let's see. So the first thing that I'm going to do is answer this question. So I grew up, and then I'm going to roll the d20 here and see what we end up with. Roll, roll, roll. I got a 2. Okay, so I grew up far from the city. Actually, so I'm going to copy this information just so we have it. So I grew up far from the city. Then I'll put the notes here, and then we'll sort all that out later. And then I move on to the second prompt. Boop, boop, boop. Doo, doo, doo. And my days were spent. ... And my days were spent doing what? Let's roll 1d6 first. So I got a 1, which puts us in this box. And then I'm going to roll a 1d10. Again, off screen, sorry. Performing, which makes sense for the character that we want to do. So I'm going to copy this in. Very nice. And then I'm going to move it down to this one. So I became... What did I become? Let's roll a 1d6. I became a 2. A nomad. Cool. I became a nomad. And then I'll copy the bonuses. This particular box, though, is if you have really specific things that you're trying to achieve, this box is mostly meant to give you a particular loadout. And these items, the gold, the weapon proficiency, we'll be trading that later. So actually, it makes note of it here too. But we're going to roll with it. Nomad, 4 low price items, 1 weapon proficiency, and we'll deal with that in a bit. So let's go over here. So to our backgrounds, we are, to finish the sentence, I became a nomad the day what? I will roll a 1d6, and I get a 6, so it's this table down here. And then I will roll a 1d10. 4. Oh man, the god spoke to me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not feeling it for my character. I'm going to roll again. A 9. Okay, I got lost underground. Sure. I became a nomad the day I got lost underground. There we go. And we'll... Normally I'd entertain that, but the amount of times that I've landed on this one, I don't feel like doing it. Cool. So now we've gotten all of our benefits. And we're going to take a quick moment just to sort them into our character sheet. So we have +2 survival. So we'll just note that. Boop, boop. That's a +2 because I have 2 pips. 2 to medicine. Boop, boop. +2 to medicine. And +2 to beasts. So +2. Cool. I'll just delete that one. So I get a +1 to influence, which is a skill. And then a +2 to performance. And then 15 gold, so I'll drop that here. And I'm going to delete that. 4 low price items, I'm just going to do 4 low priced items, and then 1 weapon proficiency, which I'll just make note of here. Weapon proficiency. Boop. And these are both going to end up a +1. Okay, and we're going to nuke that. And then a +1 to engineering, which is a skill. And then +1 to ingenuity, and then another +1 to survival. So survival goes up to a +3. Ingenuity goes up to a +1. And then I also get another low-priced item, so drop that. That's so many low-priced items. I might actually need to change it, but we'll see. Okie dokie. So that was my background. And you know it for later, because it lives right here. And this is meant to give you some fuel to create a backstory proper. Let's see what else we do. Okay, so we've already filed all this stuff away. We've tallied our skills and our knowledge. And now we actually get a little bit more too. So we have a high intelligence, an intelligence of 2 right out the gate. So we're going to add 1 point to a skill that has 0 points. So we become a little bit more versatile in that way, where we can pick 2 skills here and then put a +1 into them. So for Jester, I think that stealth makes sense. It's kind of harder to go wrong with stealth. And then I think I actually want mage work too. And that's it. We did it. Congratulations. If we had wisdom, we'd also be getting like knowledge, but we don't. So we're going to move on to, and we also don't have the contacts, which is fine. Go watch the video on backgrounds. You'll see how the contact stuff works. It's super cool, but but not everybody needs it. You may not even want it, and you want to pick a different background option instead. But we're going to prepare for combat. So currently, we need to figure out what sorts of actual weapons we want to use. There's a bunch of rules for how this stuff works, but to give it to you short, every weapon has a one or more proficiencies associated with it. When you become proficient in, or rather, you become proficient in archetypes of weapons, tags of weapons, instead of the actual weapon itself. So for example, if I became proficient in clubs, I'd be able to use a great club, but also a mace, because it has the clubs tag, and then also a warhammer because it has a clubs tag. And like, warpick, maul. So that's how becoming proficient in weapons works. So I have one weapon proficiency to exchange. So I'm always proficient in evade weapons, which that would be the alluvial broadsword, which I'm pretty sure I still have in this document. I sure hope so. It's probably in here somewhere. And just glossing over it. Oh no, did I remove it? Okay, I may have. Really? Well, that's no good. Originally, oh wait, no, here it is. Here it is. Got it. We did it. Okay, alluvial broadsword. So this has the evade tag. So I'm always proficient in this. If somebody isn't evade and wants to become proficient in the alluvial broadsword, they would become proficient in long blades. Very likely. They could actually become proficient in evade weapons too. But since this is a wield type that has like a evade tag, it means that it just costs more. You need higher attributes in order to make use of it. You just need one higher attribute. But we'll get into some of that here in a bit. Yes, thank you, E-Man. There's one more too. There's a drift staff somewhere. We'll find it. Anyway, so what weapon do we want to become proficient in? What weapon type, rather? There's so many. There are so many. And because of how this game works, you can kind of pick whatever you want to become proficient in. What it requires is that you have the right attributes. And your attributes are different from your skills. So for example, if I'm making a rogue, actually rogue is a bad example. If I'm making we'll do this. If I'm making a berserker, which is, like, yeah, I'm getting in the thick of it, and I love blood. Hurt me, daddy. I love pain. You can also, instead of going really heavy into like axes and clubs, you could just give them intelligence-based weapons if you wanted to increase the intelligence. And then how you do that, for example, is you go to intelligence weapons. As long as you have 1 intelligence, you can use any of these weapons. As long as you have 2 intelligence, you can use this weapon. As long as you have 3 intelligence, you can use this weapon. So if you wanted to be a berserker that just uses a shepherd's crook and is pushing and pulling people around the battlefield, you can totally do that. I don't think it'd be the smartest choice, but if you really wanted to, you can totally do that. Or if you just wanted to be like, yeah, I know I'm playing a caster, but I also really like the heavy crossbow, then get 2 dexterity. Pull down a heavy crossbow, and you'll be able to do that. So all the weapons are kind of baseline. There are some classes gravitate towards different types of weapons more than others, but there's a lot that you can do here, and we build the weapons in such a way that they are, for the most part, the power level tries to remain even or has a good excuse for being slightly weaker or slightly stronger than something else. For example, this hatchet here, it's a 1d6 throwable, 15 feet to 30 feet. A one-handed weapon can be wielded efficiently in either hand. A main hand weapon, however, can only be used efficiently in a primary hand. So then you get into situations like this where, like, because of that limitation of primary hand, the damage goes up a little bit. So there's some stuff like that, and then there's classes that make use of very specific weapon archetypes and that sort of thing. But for us, Jester, we have we have 1 into dexterity and then 2 into intelligence. And what that means for me is that I probably am going to pick I think I'm going to become proficient in not a rope hammer, a rope dart right here. So this is a main hand weapon. 1d6 piercing, so lower damage, but has more reach. And because of our nature of being very maneuverable, I'm going to pick this. So I'm going to become proficient in momentum-based weapons because I know that that opens up, like if I want to use a sling, I'll be able to do that too. It is a, was it dexterity? Yeah. So a sling is a momentum-based weapon, so I'll automatically be able to use that. It's also a dexterity-based weapon, so it'll work just fine. So I'll have a rope dart. I think I'll probably just do that. Have a rope dart in one hand and then have a sling in another. Okay, so we're going to go over here. Our weapon proficiency is actually momentum weapons. And that's what we do. And then at the same time, we're going to purchase equipment by trading in our low value items. We have 5 of them for items that are low value on this chart. So if you look on the right hand side here, every weapon is labeled low, and then actually has a gold cost too, but low, 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 low. So like any of these I could just trade out a weapon for. And this just helps us define what our starting equipment is. So I'm gonna pick up a sling. That'll be 1. Let's do sling. And then I'll make note of the weight too. So it's 2 weight, okay. And then also a rope dart, definitely. If I could find it again. Here it is. A rope dart. So this is a hybrid weapon. So in order to use hybrid weapons, you need to have bare minimum of +1 into both of the attributes that are outlined. So I need at least 1 dex. I need at least 1 intelligence. But I just need any combination of the two to be able to that equals this required attribute amount. So for example, I could have 2 dexterity and 1 intelligence, and it would meet the requirement for this fine. Or 2 intelligence and 1 dexterity. Again, it would meet it fine. But yeah, I'm going to do a rope dart as a second. I think that's 5 weight. Yeah. Okay, so I have 3 low price items left. Actually, man, I don't need this many low price items. I need to write down the rules just to convert it into gold, because you can. It's just 1 low price item when it comes to character creation is equivalent to 15 gold. That's how all the backgrounds are balanced. Let's see, but for the purposes of this, I think I'm actually going to take an instrument too. Oh, but I'm not proficient in it because I have only 1 weapon proficiency. Okay, I could dual fist swing slings. I'll take another sling. It's weird. So that's 3, and that'll cover my range attacks though. And then actually, I think I want a one-handed melee weapon, but I need to be proficient in momentum. I don't think that there's any momentum weapons that I'm currently proficient in. No. Okay. Well, you know what? It's fine. We'll just hold on to the items. Oh, this is strength and dexterity. Oh, I forgot I had a point to strength. Well, we can do that. They're not momentum weapons though. This one is, but this is a super high cost. Let us. Oh, we can do a rope hammer in case we need bludgeoning damage, which would only be for like undead, vulnerable to bludgeoning damage. So that might be better than a rope dart in this particular case, but yeah, we're just gonna hold on to it. It is totally fine. Man, I want more weapon proficiencies, which we will get at level 2. We'll be able to pick a couple of new weapon proficiencies and it'll be fine. But right now I'm in a kind of a weird place where, what I have? Did I have 4? I had 4 at the start. So I have 1 low price item. So now what I want to do is I'm going to pick some armor. Actually, you know what? Sorry, I'm being very indecisive at the moment. I don't want sling. Or did I have 5? Oh no. I can't remember. Okay. Well, shame on me. Anyway, we're going to pick armor. So what we are qualified to wear, as far as armor is concerned, is anything that we have the attributes for. Armor does not require proficiency to use. So we have 2 intelligence, 1 dexterity. We have 1 strength and 1 into dexterity. So we can use something like this if we wanted to. This is a medium cost item, however, and we don't have any medium cost stuff. So we are stuck with either a gambeson or we could do hide armor too, or brigandine, which is a little bit more or we could do like heavy cloth or vestments. Let's do the heavy cloth because it's a low cost item and will give us a little bit more buffer power. Well, I don't want to buffer more spells because I'm pretty much covered because of my Evane heritage. I'm going to pick hide. So we're going to go with it's probably going to bite us in the long run, but what am I doing? No, just select the things I want to select. Oh well. Okay, so we're going to get hide armor. Hide armor. And I'm pretty sure we still have 2 low price items left. I could be wrong. Anyway. Let's say we did that. There's some equipment property stuff here. There's more here. There's some adventuring equipment too, which we could certainly get, like survival gear, climbing gear, a potion of regeneration, blah, 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 blah. Food. I'm not going to do that at the moment. Instead, we are just going to kind of move on to final checks after we knock this stuff out. So, man, I'm all over the place today. I'll let you know. A rope dart, hide armor. So a rope dart. My 2 hit is going to be a +1. That's it. Because your to hit is equivalent to your proficiency with the type of weapon. So this is a momentum based weapon. I have a +1. It's a +1. The range on this we know is 10 feet of reach. The damage here is a 1d6 piercing. And that is it. Let's see, and then sling. We know that's also a +1 to hit because it's a momentum weapon as well. It is a 20 foot, 60 foot? I could just put 2060. And then it's a 1d4 bludgeoning. Man. Okay. Blunt. 1d4 blunt. I'm just going to double check on that real quick. Cool. 20 feet, 60 feet, ammunition, blah, 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 blah. All right. We're pretty much good. I'm going to go check on the weight of the hide armor is just 5, which is totally fine. 5. Wait, and then if I look at just the weight of everything, 2, 5, 5, 12 weight total. So I know that my weight is 12. Not even bothered. My defense is going to be 11 because that's the hide's defense. The buffer is a 1d4 piercing slashing, so 1d4 piercing slashing. And I can use that 5 times because I have a +1 and a strength, and then it's a durability of 4. So that means that when I take an attack, if it's a piercing or slashing damage, I could roll a 1d4 and mitigate that damage. However, it takes up 1 of the durability of that of the armor, and then we would just need to fix it. I had 5 low price at the start. Thank you. So 5, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 2. We're good. Don't really, you know what, let's just do some adventuring gear real quick. We'll do a supply pack to get 25 supply. And then we'll do potion of regeneration. And a supply pack is 2 weight for 25, which not a big deal. So that'll go up to 16. All right, and that is it. That's all we need. Go to final checks. We're going to look at doing our health. So recording our health value. This is pretty straightforward. It's your lineage health die, the maximum value of it at level 1, plus your class health bonus. So we're going to go to the 1d8 here. It's going to be 8 plus the health bonus of the class, so 10 total. And then our health is currently 10 because we haven't taken any damage. And at higher levels, you roll the health or use the average of the die instead of using your maximum. This is similar to Dungeons and Dragons for the first level. They do the same thing. And your willpower die. So we know that ours is a d8. And this is how much willpower we get when we roll initiative. This is our maximum willpower, so how much we can hold. I'm getting some warnings about the stream health. Is this still doing all right? Hopefully it's doing all right. My willpower maximum, 2 times the maximum value of the willpower die. So 2 times 8 is 16, and that's it. And our willpower starts at 0. You only get it when you roll initiative, and for like spells and abilities, but it's only during combat. Weight limits, we've already sorted this out. We're all good. And then we'll go into, so now it says to reach level 1 with your class. So we're going to record our class abilities and proficiencies. So at level 1, and this is where we do a little bit of jumping around. I'm going to go to the contents, go back to Jester. And at level 1, I know that we get proficiency in politics and performance. Since we are already proficient in performance, we get to pick a different one instead. So I'm going to do... I'm going to do commerce. +1 to commerce. And then we get that +1 to politics. Cool. Stage presence. So here's another ability that we get. While within 15 feet of an enemy that can see you, you gain +1 to hit with attacks. This effect stacks up to a number of times equal to your prestige. Prestige. You become proficient in prestige. this is a combat proficiency, which means it goes here. Prestige. And it's a +1. That increases in rank as a spellcasting proficiency would. So weapon proficiencies rank up more quickly than spellcasting proficiencies do, and that'll be noted in your progression. So for example, at level 2, I'm going to be able to update my prestige. And then at level 3, I will not be. And then at 4, I will be. Yeah. So every other level, because but martial development is every level. Let's see what else. And so this will determine, so it affects stage presence. Because since we have a 1 in prestige, we'll be able to get a +1 from stage presence, which will increase this +1 to a +2 circumstantially. So just when we're within range of enemies. And that's why using a rope dart is important, and kind of like short range, but also range weapons. Because you want to be close enough that you can get that bonus from stage presence, but far enough away to where you're not, just nobody's taking a dump on you. It's also going to increase our to hit with spell attacks, which we don't get until level 4, but it makes note of it here. And then Springy allows us to make sure that we don't get hit with opportunity attacks. I'm just going to write Prestige, Stage Presence, Springy, just so that it's in the back of my mind when we're trying to avoid damage and that sort of thing. That's it. That's all you get at level 1. But, you know, pretty substantial. Let's go over to later on in the document. If I go back down to final checks, boop. Cool. So that was it. We reached level 1 with our class, recorded everything. Spellcaster, we're not a spellcaster, so we can ignore this thing. Combat proficiencies should be at rank 1, which they are. Quick note here is that anytime that you're attacking with a weapon that you're not proficient in, it's a -2 to hit. That is something that you're going to see kind of all throughout the game. Some effects will make you untrained. For example, if you're trying to fire magic missile into the darkness, that is an untrained attack, so it would be more difficult to hit. Then again, magic missile always hits, so there's no magic missile in this game. That's it. We're done. We did it. We made a character. It is a jester of Evane origin, and if we go down to the lore for Evane, these tables, for some reason, they're all jacked up. I've tried to export this a number of different times, but oh wait, that's Wild Walker. Let's go over and scooch over here. So there's a bunch of lore for Evane in particular. There's so much. If you have an interest in lore stuff, read the lore stuff. It's toward the bottom. But for an Evane name, they tend to have they'll like ditch their proper names and then pick up just something that's super obvious for people to understand, just because of how they're regarded in society. So you can have a Yvain who is who is born with like a dwarf parent, but much like Asari in Mass Effect, the result is always another Yvain. So they might have some traits, like maybe they're more rotund or kind of like bulky, just like their dwarven parent, but there's still going to be 3 eyes, kind of, the glowing veins and just that sort of planar energy coursing through them. So for us, if we decided to roll on a table, I think there's 12 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 12. It would be one of these. Since we're from Isagni. And I'm just going to name them Ash. That's it. So this is Ash, the Evane Jester. If we wanted a last name, could totally pick up a last name. Oh, death marks. Totally forgot about that. Let's go back to final checks, because I think I skipped over a piece. I did. Know your death marks. All right, so here, this is a mechanic in the game that when you go down, you are getting closer to the sweet forever sleep. A death mark means that your spirit is trying to cleave itself from your body and pass on into the ebb and deep and whatever lies beyond that. So, to start, you have 5 plus character levels, so 6 plus fortitude death marks. For us, that would be, since we have no fortitude, it's just a 6. And then spell slots 0, get charges 0. Yeah. And that is it. I should scoot this over a little bit. Okay, so now we did it. It's done. Because we already went through weight limits and we're all good. All right, so I've successfully made a character. Does anybody have any questions? The communication has been pretty low. I know we don't have too many people hanging out in chat, but if you want any particular guidance, if you're like moving through this packet on your own, or if you have any questions about different aspects of the game, please feel free to ask now. I think what I'm gonna do is bump us up a level and kind of talk through that while while you all are in chat, but feel free to ask. All right, we're going to go down to character advancement. So this whole section is about how to bring characters up different levels. Okay, cool, Henry. Yeah, if anything else pops out to you, please let me know. And I'm sure that I'll be answering a bunch of questions in the Discord as well. So, character advancement. Man, this table got nuked too. What the heck? But there's, you can see that there's like a 0.5 level and a 2.5. What it represents is that at some point between a character's journey, between level 1 to level 2 or level 2 to level 3, they should have some sort of downtime. They don't need to, but they should still receive the downtime development benefit. So we're going to say that we've been playing this character for a little bit. It's been a few sessions past. I've been studying or practicing some of my skills, just trying to hone in on something. So at level 1.5, I'm going to get downtime development. And what that means is that I'm going to go down here, see this particular table. Between each level, it's expected that a character participates in downtime development at least once. The downtime development represents the intentional cultivation of a character's skill and knowledge during downtime. When downtime development is triggered, characters can choose one of the options from the table below. So I can improve my knowledge, like I can diversify, become more well-versed in many different things. So 3 untrained knowledge proficiencies. Or I could become, I could add 1 point to 2 adept or lower knowledge proficiencies. And adept is just, it's a +1. Or I can add 1 point to an expert or lower proficiency. That's just knowledge. And I really hope you can't hear the dog losing its mind outside. Or we can focus on skills. So skill exploration gives me access to 2 untrained skill proficiencies, and then skill mastery allows me to bump up an existing skill proficiency. Skill mastery is likely to have the most impact when it comes to so skills are things you do. Knowledge are things you know. Typically, you'll roll like a perception check, and then you'll add something to it, being in your knowledge. So whether or not you bump up one of these or bump up one of these, it kind of depends on the situation that you're in. Knowledge you tend to accumulate more rapidly, but skills might be more effective under certain circumstances. For example, I'm going to bump up stealth, because stealth is it's one of those things that's always important and probably used too often. So I'm going to bump that up, and then do my downtime development. And I'm just going to note right here. Well, I guess it would be at 1.5. Downtime development took +1 stuff. And that's it. And that's just from my recollection. So I did it. That's it. That's my level 1.5. So now I move to level 2. That, a little bit different. We're going to go back to our Jester. What are kit charges? Very back here is asking what kit charges are. So it's kind of a weird little box. If you had a medicine kit, it would just be like medicine kit, and then you'd say that, oh yeah, it's 10 out of 10 charges still. It's just a place for you to record, keep track of important charges in a just in the adventuring equipment that you had. But we're not going to do a medicine kit because at level 2, Jester gets access to their first tricks. So we'll go here. And if I look at this, development, so we're going to actually do this at the end, but actually, you know what? Well, yeah, okay, so we can engage in martial development once, or increase our proficiency in prestige, which I don't think we're going to do that yet. And then we get a specialty, which specialties are like feats, super cool, and you get a lot of them. So we're going to do that after, but Jester tricks is what we gain access to now. So we immediately get a bag of tricks that has 10 plus performance charges. So if we look at our performance is 2. So we have a bag of tricks with 12 out of 12 charges to start. These charges are used up every time you perform a trick. And you can just go to the store and buy some more stuff if you want to refill that bag. But it is a very, like, what it represents is kind of, I mean, hopefully self-explanatory, but it's a very manual form of magic in the same way that a performer would use props to accent their performance. So this bag of tricks is what you're going to be keeping track of when you're using big important stuff. So oil tongue is a trick. There's so many tricks. Should I copy all this stuff down? I don't know. It's too much. Okay, so we're going to say, let's put it up here, oil tongue. And I'm not even going to write it. Actually, yeah. Okay. So oil tongue and ribbon work, glow stick, bunny hop, bounce. Ribbon work, bunny hop, glow stick, bounce, and then wriggle is the last one. I know what these things do, but chances are people are going to have a really hard time. Treat it like spells, where oil tongue as a technique, which is a bonus action, you can cover the ground in a 15-foot line with flammable oil. The oil ignites into a burning space, so it continues to burn there. Whenever the oil or a creature in the oil space receives fire damage. So if you hit somebody with some sort of fire, it'll ignite the trail of fire as well, and then they'll take damage. At level 4, so to speed ahead a little bit, you get something called Flame Breath, which breathes out fire and can ignite your oil. So there's a little bit of synergy there. You'll see a lot of synergistic things between a bunch of the abilities, especially when you so your action, you can expend it to use a technique instead. So if you wanted 2 techniques in a turn instead of an action and a technique, that's something that you can do. Yeah. So we wrote all that down. And if you wanted to keep track of this, I'd be interested to see how you all do that. Because again, it's a lot. They're very specific. It could just come down to like, yeah, know what you're doing. And just keep it all in memory. Or maybe there needs to be another page, kind of like a spell page, that tracks all this stuff. But we'll see. So I get one specialty, engage in martial development, or up my prestige. I complained at the start about not having enough or access to enough weapons, so we're actually going to bump up our martial development, and then we'll roll into getting a specialty too. So character advancement, go down here. Hey, Mr. Doctor. Mr. Doctor? Mr. DR89? Something along those lines. Let's see. So we're going to engage in martial development, and we are going to add 1 point to 2 untrained weapon proficiencies. So I'm going to do that because I like weapons, and I like just the diversity that can come from it. So we go to weapons. We're going to pick some stuff to become proficient in. Let's pick, I think, concealed weapons, just because they're super fun. And then also, I think also short blades. No, I want instruments. Yeah. I'm going to become proficient in instruments and concealed weapons. Okay, boop, boop. All right. So alternatively, if you didn't want different types of weapons, you could have just increased with these to a +2. So that's the those are the situations. Those are the choices that you get to make. Kind of have to figure out how much value there actually is there, though. I want to make sure players have enough agency to build kind of outward. At the same time, there is something to be said about feeling like so in D&D, for example, proficiency bonuses just like level up as you level up. It keeps everything even. I feel like it doesn't have the same sort of heart because you're not really choosing it, but it does keep you more or less balanced with your party. So if you have a party member who is just focusing on one weapon, they're just like, yeah, this is the thing I'm going to do every time forever. They're going to be more efficient than you at using it until a point, because these things cap out really quick. So again, every time you get a level, you get to choose what to put points into. And if you don't have something like prestige to level up or spellcasting to level up, and you just want to level up one weapon, you're going to become fully proficient in it by level 4. So kind of putting a pause on that just means delaying and keeping, not putting a point or not like bumping you up for a level. So it's something to think about, and we'll see how it goes just through testing. But I don't think that it has a long-term impact, because as you continue to level, you hit the caps pretty quick, which means that ultimately at some point, either earlier or later, you're gonna have to like diversify. Yeah. Hey, Space Monkey. Alrighty, so the other thing, the last thing that I need to do, well, second last thing, is pick a specialty. So specialties, there's so many. You get them at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 levels. This alpha test only goes up to 6, but we have to figure out what we want. There's a lot to choose from here. Yeah, browse through this list. Oh, and like, it may not be readily evident. What? Oh, these are copied. Oh no, this chart is the same as this chart. I'm gonna need to release an updated version of this. What happened? What happened? It makes me so sad. I'm pretty sure it's missing. Oh, I bet you it's missing a bunch of stuff. Well, that's what happens when you release 120 something pages just all in one go and don't have enough people review it. Alrighty. But we are going to, I think we're just going to pick Primal Fighter. And what that will do is, so our specialty, so at level 2, I'm just going to go down here. And again, this is just for tracking, like what you've done. So specialty, say Primal Fighter. And then we know that we took like weapon exploration. And then picked up, what weapons did we pick up? Instrument and concealed. Cool. Yeah, so Primal Fighter, what this is going to do is instead of taking 15 feet to stand up from prone, it'll only take 5. Crawling only requires 10 feet of movement instead of 5. Additionally, melee weapon attacks while prone no longer are considered untrained. So if you want to just lay on the ground and attack people, you can do that, provided you're at least adept proficiency with the weapons that you used. Actually, I shouldn't take that. It kind of wouldn't be super helpful to me right now. I'm going to take careful movement instead. Actually, this is way more synergistic. So careful movement makes it so if there's a tile that's on fire and you step in it, you don't get set on fire as long as you don't end your turn there. So that'll help me move around, you know, when I breathe a line of fire, and then I can kind of like jump through the fire and nothing will happen. So we'll just take that. Careful movement. And it's easy enough to remember too. That's it. That was the level 2. Yeah, we did it. You have Ash the Yvain Jester. Yeah, I'll do that, Henry. If it's even, what also might have happened is that I might have just had an extra page there because I was moving some things around in the document, and there probably shouldn't be an extra page there. Could be. I'll double check and see. All right, that is it. I think we pretty much covered moving through the character creation. This is how it works. I know there's a lot of talking, and there's going to be probably a lot of questions, but please feel free to ask them in the Discord at playdisrpg.com. You can download the whole packet, go play with friends, try to put a game together. There's a bunch of monsters in it too. Well, I say a bunch, but there's enough to get you going. Hold on, let's scroll up to the monster section. Actually, these are all spells. There's so much stuff here, and it's all free, so it can't hurt if you just want to like dig around in the packet and then see what falls out. Yeah, this tells you how monsters work if you're the GM, and here's some monsters for you, and elemental types, and humanoid types, and undead types. Yeah, that's it. Alrighty. How do I end the stream? Very bad at this all the time. And thank you.